your leadership mask for the first time. And if you're like most people, since then, you've probably started to become just generally a little bit more aware of how you're showing up in your business. You're probably catching yourself and maybe noticing things that you've never noticed before. How many of you can attest to seeing some things in terms of the way that you lead yourself in your business that maybe you weren't noticing before? Just drop a yes and let me know if the self-awareness increased a little bit in terms of your leadership. Yeah, and that's very normal, right? It's also normal to start overthinking a little bit, right? Sometimes we can start being sent in a little bit of a spiral, and so that's why we try to do this second session as quickly as possible to give you some clarity around what to do next. But noticing things is important, and it's also a sign, okay? But here's what most people don't understand, is that awareness doesn't change the behavior. It just exposes what's been driving it. And so when you saw your mask, when you went through the process, or maybe some of you didn't even need to do the audit, you might have just recognized yourself in the mask when I explained it. Nothing actually changed yet, right? Because the mask is not a habit. It's not a mindset. It's not you trying to be fake. It's an adaptation. It's how a love-led leader learns to survive inside of a fear-led system. And here's the thing that most people miss. You can see the mask all day long, and you can be aware, and you can know better. But if the system underneath of it stays the same, the mask will stay on. I like to say environment beats awareness every single day. And so that's why some of you likely, even though you're aware, you're still feeling a little challenged, struggling with the concept. And I'm sure some of you are even kind of maybe not so sure, right? Because it is a lot to hear for the very first time, because it comes with the realization and awareness of, maybe I haven't been necessarily showing up in my leadership the way that I thought I was. And I just want to remind you, the mask is not your fault, and it is not you. Okay. But so tonight, what we're going to talk about is the system that's underneath of it, right? Because you didn't choose your mask, you learned it. Last week we talked about there was a moment for most of you, probably early on in your business, likely for the majority of you, after you hit some sort of a rank that felt significant or a big accomplishment. And that's the moment when fear took over, right? Fear, like real fear, generally shows up the morning after success, when now you've got something to lose. And you've been given this identity and this title in the way of a rank that means everything, and it defines who you are, but you're faced with the very real risk that you could lose it at any time if you don't continue to perform and produce in the way that you did. And that's really the moment that the mask really showed up. But the mask isn't the problem. The system that created it is. And so today we're going to help you see that clearly, because you need to be able to understand the system to be able to choose something different. So I'm actually going to show something to you, and I want you to start to understand kind of what's been at play here. So let me see if Zoom will allow me to do this. Okay, perfect. So here's what I want to share with you. So this is what I call the reversed order. And this is the order that you've been operating from without even realizing it. When fear is the source of your business. Let me get this here. When fear is the source of your business, what happens is results become the direction. So everything we do, if you think of LifeVantage as a vehicle, your navigation is always pointed at a result, whether it's maintaining a rank or whether it's hitting the next rank or pushing for that goal, that qualification, that incentive, whatever it is. Results become everything that we're focused on. Now, when results are the direction, your identity is conditional and unstable because it's directly tied to the rank or title that you hold. Meaning that you're constantly looking to the results for validation and proof that you're doing it well, and the way you feel about yourself is also rising and falling with the results of the business. Now, when that's the place that you're showing up from, when you're acting from an unstable conditional identity, you don't have real belief. You have borrowed belief. And if we could think of belief as a fuel, it's a very unstable fuel that burns out very quickly. And it's fine as long as the business is growing and the results are coming in. But the second that stops, it all falls apart. But even if you are building a business and it is still growing, the byproduct is you build a business out of fear that you spend more time afraid of losing than you actually do enjoying. And when this is the order that you're operating from, the problem is the business itself becomes very unstable because the individuals inside of the system, they don't have belief. And so what that looks like in a very real way is when you're building a team, your team only moves when you push them. And you're not building leaders, you're building a team of followers. And all of this just creates an issue. And now we don't really feel or experience the issue though until the belief stops or till the growth stops. And then once the growth stops, everything starts to fall apart. And I made mention because I'm very familiar with what all of you have gone through in the last year. You had this new product launch. A lot of you saw a really big spike in your results and your growth. That might have resulted in a rank. It certainly resulted in a higher paycheck and higher points or volume, right? But then once that started to shift and things started to decline, that high watermark of your business became the new standard that you measure yourself against every single day. And that's what happens inside of a fear-led system. And so we're just operating from the wrong order, okay? So here's what I want to do is I want to actually show you what this looks like in real time by coaching at least one. We'll see how long it takes to get through the first one, but coaching you through, a few of you through this. And I'm going to be referring back to what I just showed you so that you can start to get a greater understanding. So here's the question that I want to ask all of you. How many of you, or be honest, you're not going to hurt my feelings, okay? But who in here is feeling, I'm not so sure about this whole mask thing, Bob, or I'm not sure about the result that I got back? Just who here is just maybe feeling like, I don't know that this mask thing is fitting, just let me know in the chat if that's you. And if you would do me a favor, just let me know what mask result that you got. And listen, it doesn't have to be I totally disagree with it, but there's pieces of it that I'm just not sure, and I'd like some clarity. So, okay, perfect. So let's start with Jillian. Jillian, can you unmute? Would you say hello?
Hi.
Excellent. And so let me see if I can do something here just to improve the experience. There we go. Cool. All right. Hey, Jillian.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Well, thanks for having the courage to be my guinea pig and go first. I appreciate that. And I promise you, this is going to be really helpful for people. So Jillian, before we talk about the mask, I want you to hear this, right? Because this is important. there is no wrong answer to the questions that I'm going to ask you. This is not about like what's wrong with you. It's about what you've learned. Okay. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so you got a teacher mass diagnosis. Do you feel like it fits or are you unsure?
I was talking to Tanya on the phone this week, and she's like, "You should just have a conversation with Bob about this." I was like, "Fine, I'll do that. That sounds great." But I saw Holly Highfield put on there. She goes, "Mine came back performer," and that seems absolutely spot on to me. And that's how I felt when I was learning about the four mass types. I was like, that's me. That's me.
When you heard
Um,
teacher or you thought performer?
Performer.
Okay, got it. Well, so let me share this with you. This might be a good way for you. It's kind of like a quick gut check. You feel it. So, and listen, it's not, you don't like getting caught. Like I took all of you through a pretty simple audit. When I work with a leader, we take them through a much deeper audit. But at the end of the day, the mass type matters less because the process of taking it off is the same for all of them, right? And
Mhm.
performer and teacher are actually pretty similar in terms of the way they show up. But the performer mask is image driven. And so the core fear of the performer is if I don't look strong or put together, people won't respect me or want to follow me. Okay.
That's the part that I didn't connect with
Right.
performer.
Okay, so the teacher is really more kind of validation driven, and the fear of the teacher, if I'm not helping or adding value, then I don't matter or I'm not being useful.
Okay.
Which one feels more true to you?
Um, Between those two
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, the second one, I guess, for sure.
Okay. Well, we're going to dig into it a little bit, and if
Okay.
there's a different mass type here, it's likely, and I'm just going to say this because I know the room I'm talking to. The fourth mask that I named, which is disconnected, that is likely showing up in most of your leaderships right now. If you went through what I described, where your business has declined or you lost people that were here, then you absolutely have put on part of a disconnected mask. And so like in reality, the mask is, it's your actual mask is kind of a combination of different ones, right? But
Yeah.
but let me ask you this. What feels the hardest in your business right now for you?
Um, I'm not gonna look at Tanya anymore. She's just sitting there laughing. Um, I would probably say wanting to bring people into the business, I think, seems the hardest. I was a hyper recruiter for a long time. Um, I s- I love the products. I share them all the time, and I'm really, really good with that. Um, I think what surprised me most about the mask being teacher is I've said my whole life I would rather be a plumber than be a teacher. Like to me, being a teacher would be the worst job on the whole entire planet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have learned in network marketing that I do love and am passionate about teaching things I care about, which LifeVantage and health and all of this is something I care about.
Yeah.
Um,
So struggling sharing the business is something that feels particularly hard for you right now.
um, yeah, mainly because I don't think I see, and this is total transparency. This is where I'm like, I'm probably not a performer because I really most of the time don't care what people think about what I say. Um, I just don't see a whole lot of people succeeding in the industry. And I've been doing it for 8 years and I've hit executive ranks in the company. And still, it's like, oh, do I really want to tell somebody
Mm.
else that this is? like worth it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's the hardest thing I've ever done, truthfully.
Has this piece of the business, sponsoring and team and leadership, has it always felt hard and heavy for you? Was there a time where it felt different?
I would say I have probably told myself what is probably a lie. I mean, I hope it's a lie that I can do, but I can't teach. Like I can do the things. And I think there was one point in my business where I even told, our leaders that, um, I know for sure I told Carrie Williams that, like, if this business were just based off of my personal effort,
Mm,
like
yeah.
but then the teaching part of it. So that's what cracked me up when it was like, oh, you came back as a teacher when
Hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, so when you say I can do, but I can't teach, does that mean that in the past, things like sponsoring haven't been as hard for you, but your ability to duplicate that through others has been the challenge? Is that kind of what that means in this area of the business?
Okay, say that again.
Have you sponsored people?
Yes,
Okay.
lots,
Okay.
lots.
So perfect. So
Yeah.
so what you're saying is that's never been a problem for you, or at least it
Mhm,
wasn't. The problem was in getting that to duplicate through others.
mhm.
Got
Yes,
it. Okay. And so your inability to get others to do that essentially caused you to start to believe that maybe I'm just not good at it.
correct. Yes.
Got it. Okay. So I want to point out, and by the way, you're doing great. Thank you so much for being honest. I know that's not always
Sure.
easy.
My
Yeah.
hands are just sweating. It's
No,
fine.
you're doing awesome. You're doing. I really listen. You're honest in your vulnerability. That's what makes this powerful, right? And I promise you, every person in here feels just like you. Not everybody says it, and that's part of the problem. Is we don't feel like we can share these things, but they absolutely are a shared experience with leaders. Okay, but Jillian, you've given me two instances now that support what I just showed you, right?
And I see that.
Yeah. So when fear's leading, results are always the focus. That's the navigation. That's everything we look to. That's the filter for our experience in our business. And our identity is tied to the results. And our belief is borrowed from the proof of the results or not.
Mm.
And so what happened for you is early on, you were great at sponsoring and you helped a bunch of people. And we'll talk about why that was in a little bit. But
Absolutely.
what you noticed is what all leaders eventually notice, that the people that I'm sponsoring, they're not naturally going out and doing what I did. Okay? And when a leader is inside of a fear-led system and they have a unstable conditional identity that's always tied to their results, once you start to grow a team, your team actually becomes a far greater measurement of your self-worth inside of that system. And so what happens is when you start to see people not actually doing it and going, it's very triggering to your sense of self-worth. And what's really sad is, and I see this all the time, you could have, you've sponsored lots of people. Have you ever had anyone on your team be successful?
Yeah, I've had a couple go to just under executive
Okay.
level.
But you could have evidence of people, and I've even coached leaders that have had like big leaders that are on their team that when they talk about leadership and they talk about not having the belief and that, they only point to the people that failed.
Mm.
They never point to the people that are successful. But this is what this order does to us, is we only focus on the failures and we make that mean something about us. And then it's funny, I'll ask them, well, what about that person? So, oh no, they did that on their own. I'm like, well, you can't have it two different ways, right? But this is what fear does to us. And so let me ask you this, because this will be powerful. So early on, when you noticed that the team wasn't moving without, like naturally, you probably started to you start to push, because that's what push is, the only form of leadership that's modeled to us inside of a fear-led system. And so, but push looks different depending on the mask type. If you have a pusher mask, I mean, it's a push. Like, it just feels like a push. It's no, like, you know. If you have a performer mask, the push sounds like encouragement and pumping people up and motivating them. If you have a teacher, the push sounds like teaching and training and that type of a thing. And so looking back, can you identify the pattern of when you started to kind of push the team through your leadership to get them to go?
Um, well, it's hard to answer that now since the mind body launch, because it seems like they're two totally different worlds. The world before that, and then the world, leading up to that.
Before the
And
product
since,
launch, you mean?
yeah,
Got it.
yep.
So what did you do during the product launch to get people moving?
That was not hard to get people moving prior to the product launch. People were excited.
Yeah. And you want to know
Um,
why do you think they were excited?
because they believed it would be amazing.
Right. So they borrowed their belief from the new product,
Hmm.
thinking that was the reason why they're not successful. Yes, this is going to be it. And so they latched on to the new product, and that became the fuel to get them to go out and act. But it wasn't sustainable, because once the new product doesn't meet the expectation of what we think it was or it should, then now the whole thing starts to kind of fall apart again. But I think the recognition is that inside of a fear-led system, we push. And if your team doesn't move without you, then that's the only way you can get them to move. And so you talked about you reached a rank. What was that rank that you reached?
Easy one.
Okay. What happened after you hit that rank?
Um, so so there's two different comp systems, and it was like Pro 5, Pro 6, Pro 7, Pro 8, that kind of stuff. And I hit oh good, my battery's gonna die. Um, I hit Pro 5 and then stayed there for 6 years, and then moved to the next rank prior to the product launch. Um, and that was a totally different experience than the product launch itself, because the product launch is what brought me to EC1. And then after that, it went down. Um, just continued to go
Yeah.
down after that.
And then was that around the time when sponsoring started to feel heavy for you, do you think? Or was it
Um,
before? Were you sponsoring during the product launch or before the product launch?
yes. Can you bring me my charger, please, for my computer? Thank you.
Hurry up. Hurry up.
Yeah, run really fast.
So, okay, so there's an important connection for you.
Mhm.
So sponsoring started to feel heavy when you started to see the decline after the launch.
Yeah.
Did you lose rank qualification?
Mm-hmm. I'm
So,
C3 now.
yeah, so what do you think that did to you and your identity and your belief inside of the business?
Um, okay, and you can correct me if I'm totally wrong, and like I really hope they come really fast.
That's okay.
This is dying. Um, I feel like my identity was not tied to a rank, and watching it go down was not as dramatic and painful and hard as staying at a rank for 6 years when I was working as hard as I had been.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this
That
is
that makes sense for me to hear you say that, because
Okay.
the rank happened so quickly
Hmm.
because of the new product launch that at the end of the day, you probably part of it was that you could attribute the fact that you got there to the product launch.
Hmm.
And so it allowed you to disassociate a little bit to the fact that it wasn't there anymore. You had something to say, oh, well, that's the reason why, right?
Hmm. For
And that
sure.
and that is valid in many ways. But I will point out it's not a coincidence that now all of a sudden sponsoring starting to feel heavy.
So the two things that stick out to me, and again, total transparency, is my slight decline in belief because, what the product did and didn't do. And then it kind of coincided over the next year with the industry and
Mm-hmm.
what's
Oh yeah.
exploded in the industry. So it's like there's this product thing and then there's the industry thing,
Yeah.
and they're together all at one time.
Yeah.
And so I
Well,
think that the combination, and I know what you focus on grows. And so if I'm focusing on the product and whatever and what the industry is doing, that's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger in my mind.
yeah.
But I
Well, let
I
me ask you
don't,
this.
yeah.
What do you think you got out of blaming it on the industry or pointing to the industry? It's an industry thing. How did that potentially benefit you? Or what were you protecting maybe?
Mm. Um I think trying to not making myself understand why my passion has changed
Mm-hmm.
and just saying, "Ugh, industry, nobody's joining network marketing anymore, or
Yeah.
you know people are leaving these companies or companies are shutting down, and it's like they're not coming to LifeVantage, which to me I'm like, y'all are nuts."
Yeah. Well, what I'll just point out for the sake of time
Yeah.
is that this is what your mask does. Is if it's the industry's fault and nobody's doing it, then it doesn't have to be your fault.
Hmm.
And it's not your fault, but it is the system's fault. And this is, I have a very strong opinion on this. What we're experiencing has nothing to do with the industry.
Hmm.
The industry's not dying.
I feel like it's
Fear
growing
led,
up.
fear
It's
led leader,
adulting.
fear led leadership is dying, and it needs to die
Hmm.
because it's killing people inside of companies, killing their businesses, killing their leadership. And so, but this is an example of an unstable identity. Is you have something that you've done extremely well your whole career that now you've pulled back from, and it feels heavy and hard for you to do. And the only reason for that is what we're talking about. You have a disconnected mask that you're wearing, and it's very evidenced because a team member requires way more of you than a customer does.
Hmm.
So it's easier for a leader wearing a disconnected mask to just sell the products and support the customers, but it feels way more dangerous and unsafe because you pull your heart out of it. And all these things you're saying sound totally justifiable. They make total sense. There's plenty of proof that you can say, see, this is true. But at the end of the day, the thing that you've put on to protect you is also the thing that's keeping you from feeling alive in your business.
Hmm. Yeah, I've very specifically focused on loving on people and caring about helping them, which is not obviously a bad thing, but
No.
just on the product side.
Yeah, because that's safer for you because it doesn't require as much of you. And you
Yeah.
also have more visible evidence of results there than you do on the business side right now.
Hmm.
So that's also
So
borrowed
is that
belief.
why it didn't show up as a disconnected
Yeah,
mask? It showed
the disconnect mask won't show up on a content audit because you're
okay.
still posting and you're still going through the motions, but it absolutely would show up on a full leadership audit, but it comes out in this.
Yeah.
Like, I know right away, as soon as you tell me I pulled back from sponsoring, that's disconnected mass pattern for that exact reason. And
That
so
makes sense.
I'm going to help you in the second part here, Jillian.
Okay.
I'm going to help you understand why something you said is really important about being a person that wants to lead with love, because that's what we're going to start working towards restoring in you starting tonight. So you did an awesome job, though. Thank you. That was really great.
You.
Good. So if we have some time, I'll do another one, but I don't know that we could have had a better one. Jillian crushed that. So great job, Jillian. All right. So here's what I want to do is I want to show you what happens next, because this is really important. And then if we do have some time, we can do another one of those sessions. But that was the perfect demonstration of what happens, right? But here's the part that most leaders miss, and this is really critical. Your mask doesn't just affect you. It affects every person that you lead. Because whatever identity you lead from, you multiply through others. So if you lead from a performer mask, you create performers. People that are afraid to fail, they're always polishing and they feel like they have to be perfect, but they're never real. If you lead from a pusher mask, you create a culture of burnout on your team. People that only move when they're pushed, and they wind up resenting you for it because they feel like you don't really understand them and what they're struggling with. If you lead with a teacher mask, you create codependency. People wait for your next answer instead of trusting themselves enough to do it on their own. And if you lead from a disconnected mask, you create silent teams who disconnect too. People sense that you're not fully there and they pull back as well. And so this is really important because your team does not duplicate your tactics or your behaviors. They duplicate your identity and your posture. If you're exhausted, your team is exhausted. That is not a coincidence. That is duplication. If your team doesn't trust themselves, it's because you learned to stop trusting yourself. If your mask stays on, it spreads. And it's not because you want it to, but it's because that's what the system does.
You're going, come on, go.
And so you don't have a team culture problem. You have an identity replication problem. And I think one of the things that I said to Jillian is important. Here's where this becomes an issue. If your team only moves when you push, what happens when you're tired? Or what happens when life is asking you to tend to something else? And if your identity is tied to a rank, what happens when you fall out of qualification? If your team only performs under pressure, your growth will always stall when the pressure disappears. And now there's something powerful that comes with the pushing part. It doesn't actually feel like pushing when it's working. I was coaching a leader on this, very big team. She said, Bob, I get it. I see it, but there's one piece of it that I'm just struggling with. She goes, when I think back to the early days of me leading my team, I don't think I was pushing them. And I said, okay, well, when did it start to feel like pushing? And she mentioned the season where she went through losing a rank and business starting to decline. And I said, well, that's the thing. It doesn't feel like a push when it's producing results. It only feels like a push when it doesn't. And so what a love-led leader, a love-led person, which is what all of you are, what a love-led leader will do that is wearing a mask is when pushing feels like pressure, you will pull back from it because it no longer feels aligned with your love-led nature and who you are. And you see it start to strain and damage relationships, and that's not what you want. And so then when you pull back, here's what's powerful. The pushing never stops. You just change targets and you push yourself harder. You double down on what you do, your expectations, your output. And then you default to your natural leadership style. I'll just teach from afar. I'll perform. I'll motivate. I'll show my team. I'm going to go out. If you're a pusher mask, I'm going to go show them what to do. I'm going to lead by example, and I'll go sponsor 50 people and watch what they do. Same damage. It's just done from a distance this time. And so I want to get grounded in something important. You are not a fear-led person. You are a love-led leader that has been operating inside of a fear-led system. And you didn't choose it. You were trained into it, and that's not your fault. And it's not even the fault of the people that might have taught you or trained you, because they're inside of the exact same system that you are. And remember what I said, this is not bad company. This is not bad people, but it is a failing system. And here's where I want to maybe challenge you a little bit. It isn't your fault, but now you see it. And once you see it, you're now responsible for it. You get to decide what you multiply. And so if you don't rebuild the system underneath you, you will keep multiplying fear unintentionally and harming the people that you care so much about helping. And it's not because you want to, but it's because that's what systems do. So I'm going to show you the right order, the original order. And this is going to lead us into a really important part of this conversation. So you saw what I like to call the reversed order, when fear starts leading. I'm going to introduce you to the love-led order. See, love-led is not a feeling. It is an order of operations for your leadership and your business. And it looks like this. Oh, hold on one sec. There we go. So here's the love-led order. So when love is the source, oh, sorry. Got to change colors here. Okay. So when love is the source, calling becomes the direction. Now, there's something really important around calling. Because as a profession, what have we always been taught the key is? You got to know your why. What's your purpose? What's your why? How many of you are like me? You want to know how much I beat myself up over not knowing my why, or thinking I had the right why, and that was the problem, is I don't have, my upline would say, your why should make you cry. And I'd be like, what is wrong with me? Right? Well, what do we do when we say find our why or our purpose? We look inside of ourselves. Where is it? Can't find it. Well, that's wrong. See, you inherently resisted that concept because it's not what you do. Calling is the direction. Calling lives outside of you, not inside of you. Calling is love with an assignment. Calling is expressed through other people. When calling becomes the direction, when that is the thing, not results, but calling is the thing that is leading, you will have a stable identity that you do not have to earn every day through what you do or your rank. Because here's the truth. Your calling is separate from your business, and it is 100 times bigger than your business. Your calling is bigger than any company, compensation plan, or product you will ever sell. Your business serves your calling. That is the rightful order. Now, when you're operating with calling leading, you have a stable identity, you have real belief. Not borrowed belief rented from your results every day. You have a sustainable fuel it exists whether or not people say yes, because when you're operating from calling, it's about more than just someone buying from you. And here's what winds up happening. You build a business, but it feels and it looks very different. You build a business that actually matters. Do you understand how powerful it is? Could you imagine how powerful it would be that every single day in your business, you are so clear and present to the fact that you are living out your calling in everything that you get to do? And you're no longer defining yourself by your rank. And listen, it doesn't mean that you still aren't ambitious or driven or want to grow, but you will experience a kind of growth. You will experience love-led growth, which doesn't feel like pressure. Every day you feel peaceful because you're being present in your business and you're connecting with people. You're building trust. You're transferring belief. You will have people that will rise up and you will build the kind of business that you've always dreamt of. That only happens with the right order. Now, here's what's so powerful about this. This right here, that's how you started. That is how you started. See, when you first started LifeVantage, you were love-led. Calling was leading. You know, your life got changed because of the product. You went through an incredible transformation in your own health. You got introduced to people that felt different, gave you a vision of something more. There was something that you felt called into. And that's why you said yes. It wasn't about hitting the top rank. It wasn't about going viral. You didn't need a script to talk to someone. You didn't need a strategy to post. You were sharing your truth. Every day you were having a conversation. I call it the calling conversation. Who can I help? Who do I love? What am I building? It felt meaningful. And then slowly but surely, the fear-led system started to condition you out of that. No. You don't talk to people like that. Here's the script. This is better. Do it this way. No. This is how you post. You just 3 times a check box. Do this. This is what you do. No. You got to treat it like a business. You're not treating it like a business. You have to be coachable. Does this sound familiar to anybody? And what do we start doing? We stop trusting ourselves more and more, and we eventually say, okay, all right, I get it. I want to be you. I'm going to listen. But in order for me to stay, because a lot of this doesn't feel like me, I'm going to put on a mask and I'm going to protect myself. And that's exactly how it happened. But I want to remind you that's not you. And that calling that was there in the beginning, it's always there. It never leaves you. And so when I do this work with leaders, I don't say be better. I say come back. I say remember who you were before fear took over. Remember the calling that started this whole thing for you, and let's restore the original order. You know, everyone, and I made this mistake too for a very long time. Everyone starts with behavior. Here's a better script. Here's a better system. Here's what to do. We think if we can act our way out of it. You can't act your way out of a broken order. You must restore the order. You must start with the identity of the person. And if you transform that, here's what's so beautiful about this. I asked you in the beginning, I said, how many of you have noticed you're already starting to be more conscious of what you're doing? You know, I'll have leaders sometimes that will say, Bob, I have to tell you, I just had this happen the other day. I had a conversation with someone on my team the other day, and it went so much different because I really thought about, am I being present right now? And am I really focusing on helping this person feel safe? And she said, I had a conversation with someone that I've never had in my business. I did a session like this just last night for some students of ours. and there were some leaders there, the five women that were kind of founding members of a company. And all I heard was about how these acrimonious meetings with the ownership. And one of them reached out to me and said, Bob, I have to tell you, we had the most beautiful meeting with the owner of our company yesterday, because every single one of us was being more present to how our mask was showing up. Here's what is so powerful about this. When you restore the order, what that really means is you just give yourself permission to be who you are in your business. You are a love-led person. You are a love-led leader. The behavior that you take is an expression of your identity. And when you trust who you are in your business, and we learn how to strengthen that, you will realize you already know what to do. You don't have to think about connecting with people in your life. You don't have to think about being present, but you do here because of the conditioning. And it's really powerful when you help a leader realize that when you act from that place, man, it is so powerful. And so here's what I'll say to you in closing, because I want to make sure I get this in, and then I think we'll have time to do another coaching session. I just want to make sure I get this out there. So there's two types of people that are on this call. If you're someone that's here that you're building alone, meaning that you don't have a team yet, okay, I want to let you know that we have a place for you. If you decide that this is the work that you want to do, that you know you want to be love-led in your business, and that this is how you want to build. We have a program called Love-Led Shift. Okay, I will make sure I'll give you a link really quickly right now. I don't want to make this the focus of what I'm doing, but I do feel an obligation and a responsibility to let you know that there is a next step. We have a program called the Love-Led Shift. You can go to loveledshift.com. For those of you that do not have a team and you're not leading people yet, this would be a phenomenal place for you to start to do the work yourself as a leader, okay? If you went through the audit, you will get some information on that program eventually in the next ensuing days. But I want to speak to the second person. If you have people watching you, learning from you, modeling you, then this just isn't about your mask. It's about the system that your team is living inside of. You cannot fix a leadership system alone. And so that's what we help leaders build. I personally help leaders build inside of a program called Love-Led Growth that we have. It's not a course. It's not a coaching program. It is a leadership reconstruction room where your leadership gets deconstructed in real time and rebuilt in community with other love-led leaders. You get direct access to me, 12 weeks of identity work. It is not for the faint of heart, I will tell you right now, but it will be the most fulfilling and rewarding thing you ever do in your life. And so if you are a person that is bearing the weight of responsibility of holding a team's belief on your shoulders, then I would love to have a conversation with you. And all I'll ask you to do outside of the confines of this room, reach out to me privately and connect with me. Send me a message, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. If you're interested in learning about what working together might look like and see if it is a potential fit for you, shoot me a message privately and we can have a conversation. I don't want to spend any more time here inside of this room with that. So just wanted to make sure I get that out there. But let's do the part I love the most. Let's see if we can coach someone else here. So who wants to be my second guinea pig here? I'd love to do someone that's not a teacher mask, okay? So I'm looking for my performer and or pusher masks. And so Jolene, what is your mask type? Can you let me know? You were first up there, but I'd love to make...
So I actually reached out to Tanya after the last session.
Okay.
And she said to jump in. But I actually I was gifted a month with the Love Led Shift program. And through doing the content audit, I came out as a teacher, which absolutely made sense using my
Yep.
content with
Yep.
Pusher as a side.
Okay.
Um, but as I was going through the month, the posts weren't fitting. Like they didn't, I was having to like rework them. They didn't feel good. Like it just was like something doesn't feel right. And so last week when I listened to you talking about the masks, I was like, I'm a completely disconnected. And so I reached out to Tanya. I said, if you're extremely disconnected in your personal life, can that show up in your leadership or in your business? And so she's like, well, reach out and talk. But that
Yeah, I
being
mean,
said,
it certainly could, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you're not a robot, right? It's not like you
Yeah.
have these, it's not like you sever yourself when you come into your business. So it absolutely could bleed over for sure. Yeah.
Mhm. But if you want a performer, then I'm not the person.
That's
But
okay. Well, you're here. You're here. So let's
yeah,
talk. So
okay.
what feels heaviest for you right now in your business, Jolene?
So I'm in Canada, and so we didn't go through that big thing with the Mind Body launch that
Yep.
everybody in the US did because
Yep.
we didn't have access. It takes forever with Health Canada. But up here, what I find is a struggle is people's attitudes, both towards network marketing and towards natural health products and products from network marketing. Um, but myself, I did come into this from a love perspective. It was the health shift, all the things, but I had come through many years of being completely disconnected. I didn't have a network to start building on. So I'm coming up on 7 years. I've been very consistent. I've built a very good customer base, but I struggle with finding leaders and building the business from that perspective because, and after going through this, I feel that it is because I'm so disconnected and potentially don't trust myself enough to be able to show up because I have that tendency. Something happens and I back off because I feel like I can't carry or show up all of
Mm,
the time
yeah.
because I haven't been able to do that even in my personal life.
Okay.
So,
All right. We were definitely supposed to talk tonight
okay.
for sure. I I know that for a fact. So I want to get to what you just said because there's a really important lesson in it. But I want to just acknowledge something you said earlier about people's opinion of network marketing. I mean, that's a very real thing we face, right? I mean, but here's the question I want to ask you. What is it people's opinion of that's the real issue? Is it
It's,
network marketing or is it everything that we've been talking about?
it's probably everything that we've been talking about because
Because
for me,
what is people's experience of network marketing?
a lot of people have bad experience with it
Through
or know somebody or they've heard
Right,
stories
through
or they,
people. They
yeah,
don't know network marketing. They've never
no.
their experience and their perception of network marketing are the people that they've interacted with or that they see posting on their feeds all the time that have been conditioned to lead with fear and give people a bad taste of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know the easiest way for you to completely break that mold and change their opinion?
Would love that.
Don't be them.
And I'm not. I usually balk the system or I don't. Um, I'm either opposite or quiet.
Yeah. Well,
Probably more.
fear's manifesting different in you.
Yeah.
It's not better or worse, but you're still being affected. You're just pulling back instead of most people pushing forward. You're drifting instead of pushing or hustling or hyping.
Mm-hmm.
Same
Yeah, because I don't
problem.
like the push,
Yeah,
right?
same
Like even
problem,
with,
but it's a
yeah.
different pattern. But my point is this, is it's not network marketing that needs to change. It's the systems inside of the companies that were taught to grow the business. It's fear. The people that are in network marketing have been conditioned to lead with fear. And when fear is leading, we always hype. There's urgency. That's what it is. Like people are, they don't like that. And so that's just important to acknowledge. You have one interaction with an actual love-led leader that understands how to lead with calling and connect with people. You can change their entire perception of an industry in one interaction. And that's the opportunity we have. But let's get to something else you said, because I think it's more important. So you started out talking about life stuff happening. And then later you hinted or indicated to me about, you know, life requiring you to pull back or step away from your business. When that happens, how do you feel about yourself in your business as a leader?
Not very good, because that's not what I want. But because I've always, not always, but for a long time, energy was something I didn't have a lot of. And so I will focus my energy where I feel it's needed.
Yeah.
But I feel this desire to want to do the business, because I'm also trying to grow my own coaching business as well. So I'm doing two things.
Do you feel guilty, and do you beat yourself up when life is forcing you to pull away?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you're failing as a leader?
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is one of the worst things that fear does to us. It is. I mean, I could get angry talking about this. You know how many leaders I've coached, new mothers that had their first baby, that get on a coaching call with me telling me how guilty and ashamed they feel because they're not posting or showing up. I'm like, you just had a baby. And here you are from the leadership preaching, and I'm not talking to you, but I'm just getting on a little soapbox here. What do we sell to people? Freedom. Live the life you want. And then we're in a position where we actually achieve our goals, and we never even allow ourselves for 1 second to honor the priorities in our life that we work so hard for. If that's not the most damning thing that fear does, I don't know what it is. We are taught as leaders that our value is tied to what we do. And what we're taught, which is consistency, which is absolutely based in fear, breaks with our life every time we need to lean into something more important. That is one of the number one sources of burnout by leaders in this industry. It makes you feel like you constantly have to choose between your life and your business. We teach something called rhythm. Rhythm bends with your life. It doesn't break. And I'll tell you what you did, Jolene, and it took a lot of courage for you to do that. In these difficult moments where life is calling you to do something or to tend to something, you led yourself and you focused on your priorities and your values. And that is leadership. And that is an example that should be set inside of this space. That should be celebrated. Isn't that why we work so hard? Like, what are we working for? What are we really modeling to people? And so you led yourself. Now, the only problem that you have, Jolene, is that you're still existing inside of the conditioning.
Yeah.
And you've, in a very real way, you've built a business that depends on you because of everything we've talked about. You haven't grown a team. You haven't risen people up, not because you're not capable, but because the system makes it nearly impossible to do. And so you have to be in your business all the time. And so it's a double-edged sword, but it doesn't have to be that way for you moving forward. Mm-hmm. Why'd you start with LifeVantage? Would you feel called into?
The amazing results that my son had and that I was beginning to have within 10 days of starting the products. And I was like, people have to know about this because it could literally change their life.
If that's not a calling, I don't know what is. Did you have success early on?
No, 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 because like I said, I didn't have a network. I'm an extremely shy, walled up person. And so it took me a really long time. I didn't even have a community.
Did you talk to the people that you know? What does not having a network mean? I don't understand what that means. You didn't know anyone? You've been in isolation your whole life?
I knew people, but I had been so disconnected because of things that had happened in my life.
Got it.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. And so you didn't feel comfortable talking to them.
Right. Because it's like, oh, now we haven't talked in like
Now I'm
10,
trying to sell
11
you
years, and
something.
now I'm trying to sell you something.
Okay. So that's where fear took over for you right away.
Yeah.
You didn't even have a chance to let calling lead. Because if calling was really leading for you, if that was the thing that was present every single day, let me ask you this. You've clearly been through a journey.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the things you've been through in your life have equipped you to support people in the area of their health and well-being more than just LifeVantage?
Yeah. Which is why I'm also building a coaching business.
Exactly. You want to know why you're building a coaching business? Because you're searching, your calling is screaming at you, Jolene, please let me lead. And you're thinking, oh, I need a different vehicle. No. And I'm not saying you shouldn't start your coaching business, but this is the reason why leaders do this. Something feels missing. I'm not getting it here. It's calling. You're not letting it lead. So we go do something else thinking it's the vehicle. It's not the vehicle. The vehicle supports the calling. And so if calling were leading for you, you would have no problem whatsoever reconnecting with people that you've known in your past.
Mm-hmm.
Because would you agree most people today are struggling and feeling lost in terms of just their well-being and health and mental well-being?
Absolutely.
And so if you believe that you've been through the things in your life for a reason, that God has a purpose for that, and that part of that purpose is you stepping into the leader that he created you to be, to connect with others and serve them along their journey, you feel no resistance whatsoever connecting with those people. The only resistance exists because the business is the thing that's present.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to know what's powerful? If you fully allowed yourself to lead with calling and just let that be the thing that you lived in every day, here's what's really cool about this. You'd have a bigger business than you could ever imagine. Because you're going to connect with people that naturally say, yeah, but I don't have a vehicle to help me solve this. And you'll say, well, I do. But that's not what you lead with.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That feels very different to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'll make an observation. Your identity just shifted.
It did.
I saw it. I saw it the moment it happened. You got it in that moment.
Yeah.
So imagine if this could be the place that you could show up every single day inside of your business and just have your business support this.
Yeah.
It's powerful, right?
Very.
So I knew we were supposed to talk. So I'm glad we did.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Thanks, Jolene. That was awesome. So, all right. So, I mean, that was just supposed to happen. That I don't know that we could have possibly have had a more powerful close to this session. But that's the power of what we're talking about here. That's it. That's what it is. And so, listen, I hope that tonight gave you some more clarity around what to do. If you are interested in learning about what this work really looks like, I gave you the ways that you can connect with me. And above and beyond that, I just want to say, let's make sure we stay connected outside of here. I know some of us are meeting for the first time tonight. And so please stay connected to me. Facebook, I go live on Facebook every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can catch the replay if you can't catch it live. It's a 20-minute space where I help leaders that are being fear-led break out of that. And so that would be a great place for us to stay connected. But I want to thank Tanya for taking the time and making the effort to help put this together. And I want to thank all of you for hanging out with me. I really enjoyed having an opportunity, and a special thanks to those of you that shared tonight. So have a great night, everybody. Awesome. See ya.
Good night, everybody.
I missed that.